All right, sounds very good. Thank you so much. So good to see everybody. Really excited to go through everything here today. So couple things. We've got a pretty small group, so happy to take kind of questions as they come up. I've got some slides. I've got some other screen sharing that we'll do. But feel free to kind of like raise your hand if you have a question or something, or put it in the chat, like Casey said, and we will get to your questions kind of along the way. I think the best way to chat through some of the accessibility features that are on your device, and I'm happy to share the slides that I will show in a few minutes with the group afterwards, and it has a list of some of the things that we're going to talk about. But I think it might actually be best for me to just plug in my own iPad and show everybody what we're looking at. So would love to get a sense from the group, just as I'm getting set up here, what our general level of familiarity with the accessibility settings on your iPad are so far, or on your iPhone. Anything that people want to talk about specifically? Anything that you are already feel really, really good, really familiar with?
Not much.
Not familiar with much. Okay.
Someone in the
See
chat said
something.
not really. So
Okay.
just keeping an eye on the chat.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. So, is everyone able to see my screen here?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, very good. So, we're going to talk now about some of the on-device accessibility features on your iPad. So, the first thing you're going to want to do, and I welcome you to follow along and kind of see, because you can actually, we'll play around with a lot of these just actively, and you can see what they look like on your own device and if you like them. So what you're going to want to do is scroll down on the left side here to the tab that says accessibility. And now you'll see we have all sorts of many accessibility features that are available here. And I will be honest with you, as I was putting this presentation together, I learned a lot of new things that I actually did not previously realize that the iPad could do. So I'm really excited. We're going to stick to just the things here in the vision section, which is kind of this first section on the top on the right side here. And I guess just so that everybody knows, I am looking at an iPad that's currently running iOS 17.6.1, it seemed. So this is not quite the newest software update. So if you're looking at your own iPad and you're like, some things are a little tiny bit different, it's probably because you're on a different software version.
Hey Rebecca, just to give you a heads up, everyone joining us this evening just recently got their iPad through the iPad Assistance Program. And so they've either gotten a 9th gen or a 10th gen iPad. So nobody on the call is going to have the brand new version.
Got it. Well, those iPads also are or will be compatible with, I think it's iPad OS 18 we're on now.
Yeah.
I happen to be a little bit behind. So maybe we'll all be on the same page and that'll be great.
Yes, and also we just had Rachel join us as well, Rebecca, just letting you know.
Fabulous. All right, so jumping into some of the accessibility features, I do want to talk about VoiceOver, which is the very first one here, but that one's a little bit more in depth. So I'm actually going to start with one down from that, which right now is Zoom. So I actually have my Zoom on, and what that allows you to do is actually just basically if you were able to pinch and zoom your whole screen like you would a photo, that's basically what Zoom on your iPad is allowing you to do. And the way that you kind of initiate that, it sort of says here, it says Zoom magnifies the entire screen. Double tap with 3 fingers to zoom, drag 3 fingers to move across your screen, and then double tap with 3 fingers and then drag to change your zoom. So if I take my 3 fingers and I double tap and then I slide up, it seems to not be translating to the screen share. But if you double tap with your 3 fingers and on the second tap you sort of leave your fingers engaged with the screen, then you can slide up or down to zoom in and out. Is everyone seeing that and how that works?
Yes.
Very good.
Yes.
Anybody struggling with that at all?
Nope.
Okay. So this is a really cool feature because it allows you to do this Zoom really anywhere on your iPad, like across other apps. I've actually seen people use it extensively to play like video games on your iPad, which is not why you received your iPad. But you know, there may be opportunities to do things where there are small details associated with what you're working on, and this will work totally across all of your apps. So that's really, really cool. And now I'm seeing why you can't tell that I've zoomed while I'm screen mirroring, because the show while mirroring is turned off. I think that if I turn that on, now you
Oh,
can
there
see
we
it.
go. There we go.
There we
Yeah.
go. All right. And then we can actually move around, and it actually in certain cases will jump to other text or things that it thinks you might be interested in looking at. So there are several other features associated with Zoom, which I do encourage you to play with. I think the Zoom filter might actually be one of the more interesting ones. So you can actually, if you're going to use this Zoom, you can actually make it be a filter so that you can, when you're Zooming, you have this filter applied. So there's no filter, there's inverted, there's grayscale inverted, and then there's low light. So I think this is one of the best kind of like easiest accessibility features that will really help even on like websites where text is too small and for whatever reason they won't let you zoom in, or like I've used this for email and things. Moving over to the next feature is called hover text. So this is actually something I just learned about as I was getting ready to give this talk today. And this basically lets you display a large text view of items under the pointer or Apple Pencil. So if I turn my hover text on, I just so happen to have an Apple Pencil here. I don't even have to touch the text. If I hover over the text, you see at the top of the screen, you actually get a display of what that says, and you can choose what the background color of that text is, what the color of the text itself is, and you can actually change where it's displayed. So the display mode, whether it's top, inline, or at the bottom. You can change the font, so you can pick any font that you like. So like, let's see, I actually like this Apple color emoji font. And it will change how it looks. You can change the size of the text. So let's just make it really, really big here for a minute. Now we get, and it will actually auto scroll too, which is very cool. And when you get down here where it says text color, insertion point color, background color, border color, we can change what color the text shows up to be. So maybe I want it to be light blue. Now when I do this, my color is light blue. I can change the color of the background. So right now it's on black, but maybe I want it to be white and light blue. That's pretty terrible for me. I don't know. Other people might like that, but I don't like that. But you can choose any background color. You can choose any text color. Then you can actually choose the color of the border around the text also. So you'll see now we've got that red border around the outside. Yeah. Does that seem to be working for everybody? Any questions on that?
Yeah, how do you start hover text again? Like,
So
Yeah.
you
Yeah, how do you start it?
so if you have an Apple Pencil and you put your Apple Pencil kind of over top,
oh,
So what if you don't have one? What if you
that's a
don't have an
very good question. And it is one that I was doing some research on, but still don't quite understand. It says display a larger text view of items under the pointer or Apple Pencil. So I believe that there may be a way. This is a very good question. Let me get back to you on that. There definitely is a way to do it. I don't think that it is as easy or clear without the Apple Pencil.
Okay.
But I will get back to you on that question for sure. Any other questions on hover text?
No.
No, looking good.
No.
All right. Next, I'm actually going to go to display and text size. These are some of my favorite accessibility options on the iPad. And they will also work across different apps that you have. There are some apps that may not support the adjustments that we can make here, but many of them do. So starting at the very top, we can have bold text. And I can just kind of show you, as you toggle that on and off, you can see what a difference it makes to have just that thicker, bolder text. If that's something you like, you can have it on. Otherwise, I still find the text to be like pretty readable if it's not bold, but I just think the bold is better.
Yeah.
Next, down from there is these larger text sizes. And so basically, you're able to adjust on your iPad what the size of the text that you like is.
Wow.
And if you go,
Very
if
useful.
yes, and if you're in the accessibility settings, so you'll see if you don't have larger accessibility sizes enabled, you'll see that you can only go up to about this big. But then if you turn on larger sizes, you can actually go much, much, much larger. So totally dependent on what works best for you. I like to see a little bit more on my screen, so I actually keep this setting off, but I know a lot of people who like to have things at like one of those very biggest settings. Everybody seeing that? Is that working for everybody?
Yes.
Very good. So after that, I'll also just talk briefly about these kind of on-off labels. So these will, instead of with color, it will actually show you the little O and the little I to tell you whether the button is in the off position or the on position. I actually find that really hard to see, so I leave it off. I don't find it to be very helpful. But if you're someone who also has kind of a color issue, that's pretty much why that's there, so that you're not relying on the green color or the gray color to tell you whether the button is on or off. Another thing that I will sometimes put on is reduced transparency. And basically, this just helps improve the contrast. So basically, what it says here is improve contrast by reducing transparency and blurs on some backgrounds to increase legibility. So again, you can kind of play around with this. If you turn it off and you sort of look at your dock, and then you turn it on and you look at your dock, you can see that the dock actually becomes a little bit more opaque. And again, just like easier to read stuff on top of. So I do actually have that on. Next is the increased contrast feature. This is not something I use personally, but I do see very much how it would be valuable, especially in the albinism community. So what that says is increased color contrast between app foreground and background colors. And you can really see, even in this menu, if I turn that on, it just kind of adjusts the difference in color even between sort of the dark gray box that's around the increased contrast section and the darker black gray background. Everyone kind of see that? See the difference
Yes.
that that's making?
Yes.
Very good. And again, my goal here is just to kind of share many of these things with you, and you totally get to decide what works for you. There are definitely some things in here that, I just like to make life difficult for myself. And so I'm like, I like the aesthetic of having all of the colors a certain way, even if that's not best for my vision. So it's totally up to you. And there's a lot of really great stuff in here that may apply, may not. But we're going to go through a lot of it just so that you are aware. So a couple other things I want to specifically point out in here are smart invert and classic invert. Smart invert, the way that Apple describes it, is reverses the colors of the display except for images, media, and some apps that use darker color styles. So Smart Invert will actually invert all of your colors, which you're obviously not seeing here because it's on dark mode. But if I close, whoops, if I close this, you can kind of see that many of the colors look different, but it won't adjust images, or because you know when you try to use an invert filter on an image and you suddenly have like it's a picture of your mom but
Oh,
she
I
looks
get it.
like an alien. It will do all of the inversion in case you want to read with white text on a black background, but you also want to see your pictures regular. So that's Smart Invert. The other version of that is just Classic Invert, which will revert, as you can see here, just totally invert all of the colors. Even though my iPad is on dark mode, it has like made this bright. And basically you'll see that makes everything kind of look a little crazy. I definitely think there are some reasons why you might want to use this. But in
Yeah,
my opinion, Smart Invert does a much better job. Let's see. What else do I want to go through here? I wanted to also talk about some of these color filters. So if you're somebody, and this is actually quite interesting, if you're somebody who likes when things have a certain colored tint, you can actually go in here and
what does it
adjust.
what do the color filters actually do?
So they will actually adjust the color, all of the colors on your iPad, so that in this case, we're kind of making everything blue yellow tinted or red green tinted. You can see it here a little. If you look at all of the little icons here on the very left hand side, as we switch through them, you can kind of see those change a little bit. Oh, you know what? It's not mirroring to the
Mm.
screen share. I can see it on my screen.
I was gonna say we
That
don't see it.
it's a little bit red. That's so funny. It's you know what? This was not one of the things that I tested before today. I figured that it would screen share properly. Um, but is everyone able to kind of play with that a little bit and see for themselves on their own device how that's working?
Yeah.
All right, very good. And you can adjust the hue here too, which again, you're not seeing happen on my screen, but I am seeing happen on my screen. Those might be fun if you have to maybe read for a long period of time and you really like to read with a red or green, or yellow, in my case, tint for a long period of time. Okay.
Someone in the chat said try red green filter. Are you asking Rebecca to try it or were you trying it
Yes.
or? Okay, you want Rebecca, is Rebecca?
You want me to try it? Okay.
Mm.
Red
Red
green.
green.
Well, it
So
doesn't actually do much.
Does it not?
In
I
my
think
screen,
Some
it
of them might be
changes a lot.
subtle.
Mm?
yeah, I do see a difference on my
Mm?
screen. It's only a
Okay.
little bit of difference. If you're not seeing a lot of difference, it probably means you have really good color vision. Um, the red green
Mm?
filter, I believe, is meant to help people who are red
Okay.
green colorblind to distinguish the colors. So if you're like, hey, that doesn't make a big difference, it probably is because you see color really well. All right. I'm just going down my list to make sure that I'm hitting on everything. Auto brightness is also something that you can turn on and off. I do like to mention this because I know many times for us, you take your device out into the sun, and this might be your iPad or your phone, and you really need it to be at that highest level of brightness all the time. Whereas your device will sometimes like realize that it's in the dark versus outside, and it will auto adjust that brightness. So you can actually turn that off so that the brightness only adjusts when you change it manually. So if you're in a dark space, it doesn't automatically get really dim the screen. Okay. Now we're going to back out of display and text size. And we're actually going to jump down here to spoken content. And so this will allow you to when you select text on your device, it'll give you the option to actually read that out loud. So let me find a good example that I can share. But basically, the same way that you would copy or paste. Let's see, can I do this? Oh, hello. You definitely do have an internet connection. So if I were to maybe go into an app and I want to, oh, this isn't gonna work. It's giving me a hard time today. So if I type hello in here and then I highlight it, I actually have the opportunity to speak it out loud. And I don't know if you could hear that, but I could hear it. And this is anytime that you're able to actually highlight text, you can then go all the way over to the side here and hit speak, and it will say it out loud. And this is, you can do it for much longer documents and things. Anytime you're able to just like highlight that text. Also for like text messages, any type of text-based information. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, very good. And then, I wanted to talk about some things down here. So now on your accessibility tab, we want to scroll all the way down. We're actually going to talk about the two things on the very bottom. The first one is accessibility shortcut. So your accessibility shortcut is like one of these things that we've just talked about, and actually many other options as well, that you really like and you think you might want to use on and off a whole bunch of times. Basically, you can configure and triple click the top button to toggle that feature on and off. So you've got your kind of sleep wake button on, I think it's on the top of everybody's device. If it's not, it might be along the right side. And if you triple click that button, excuse me, you can get your you can choose what accessibility shortcut happens when you do that. So let me just show you. If I choose increase contrast to be my triple click action, and then I triple click, it's a subtle difference. But do you see how that makes the increased
Oh, yeah.
contrast go back and forth? And you can choose any one of these that you like that we just went through, or some of the other ones. There's actually some additional options as well. Is that working for everybody? You see how that is?
Yes, it's working.
Yes.
All right. Very good. And then this I think is so cool. And I actually also just discovered this as I was going through some of the things here in preparation for this conversation. You can actually set up all of these different settings for specific individual apps. So by doing, you want to go to per app settings, then you can go to add an app. And let's say when I'm scrolling on Amazon, I want all of the text to be I want it to be bold, and I want it to be like the largest font size possible just on Amazon, maybe because I think that they have really, really small text size. You can actually adjust this just for that one individual app. And so there's a pretty much infinite use cases for this. Maybe it's school apps that you use that you want to make adjustments for. Maybe it's even like Zoom, but I'm pretty sure you can add just about any app that you have on your device into this per app settings, and you can adjust how your settings are different for just that app specifically, which I just think that this is very cool. Everybody see that? Questions on any of these things?
No.
No? Okay, I think there might have been a chat. Casey,
It was
there a
Karen.
chat?
Karen said, I
Oh.
learned that today. Her app setting's amazing. I didn't know about this either. I'm learning too.
I'm so glad. I learned about it as I was getting ready. I was like, you know what? I haven't
Yeah,
really deeply
there's so
explored in
much.
here.
There's so much available to us that we don't even like take the time to learn sometimes. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. There's so many options. Okay. So, last but certainly not least, I do want to talk about voiceover. So I am not a voiceover power user. I will be the first one to say that. So I'm actually not going to turn it on because I do, once I turn it on, especially with a live studio audience, will struggle to turn it off. But what voiceover allows you to do is actually navigate non-visually through your device with swiping motions. And so basically, once you turn voiceover on, it will speak out loud to you that voiceover has been turned on. And you basically swipe with one finger kind of across your screen, and it will, very similar to a screen reader, jump through all of the different sections and read them to you. And then I believe it's a double tap to kind of click into one of those sections, and then you can make adjustments on things from there. If you are somebody who benefits significantly from screen readers like VoiceOver, there's a lot of really good information on this online on how to use it. I will be the first to tell you I am not a power user, and I know that if I turn it on, I will derail the whole rest of the presentation by being relatively unable to turn it back off. But if this is something that is specifically interesting to you, it's a really great feature that you don't have to have on all the time. And many, many, many apps work really flawlessly with VoiceOver. Questions on anything there?
No.
No, all good?
Yeah.
All right. So let me make sure I hit everything I wanted to hit. Okay, so I'm actually going to stop sharing this screen and we're going to go back to my slides. And the goal of the slides is just to chat through, and these are just some app recommendations that I personally like. You may hate them, you may have your own that you like. There will be a time once we go through many of these for you to share if you have favorite apps. But I just wanted to share some of the things that I use, both frankly on my iPad and also on my iPhone, for different features and capabilities. So I promise I will give an opportunities for everyone to share their favorite apps. But just to start with some of mine. Alrighty. Okay. Okay, can we see my slides now?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Fantastic. So, starting off with just some great apps for accessibility. I absolutely have to start off with Rebecca. I don't think that I started off our conversation today by sharing, but I am the founder of Rebecca. My company developed this technology, so I absolutely have to kind of share it with you. Rebecca is a free app download that basically is a digital magnifier and also a distance viewing device right on your iPhone or iPad. And we're actually starting to work with some really cool organizations now, some museums and some libraries that will let you have totally full access to the technology while you're in those spaces. So I highly recommend you check out Rebecca. Very well liked in general by the albinism community. The albinism community was very influential in helping us develop and design Rebecca.
Yes,
And
I will say I love Rebecca. Just jumping in. It's great.
thank you. Oh, did I hear a me too? Very good.
I'm always sharing it with people.
Oh, thank you. And the other great thing about Rebecca is that if you find something that you hate about it, you all will now have my contact information and you can let me know that there's something that you hate about it and we can fix it. So highly recommend that you check out Rebecca. I also would be remiss if not to share that there is sort of an Apple version of Reboca called Magnifier. It is often pre-downloaded on your device. You probably just have to search on your device for Magnifier. It looks like this. It does many of the same things, although I will say generally Reboca is liked better in terms of the user experience. And we do have some additional features that Magnifier does not. But if you're somebody, and I know many of these people who are like, I don't want to download another app, Magnifier is already on your device and may get done the job that you need done. Also, I definitely want to share Good Maps, which is an indoor navigation tool. It basically uses the camera on your device to help you navigate within indoor spaces. It does only work in the spaces that they have previously mapped, and you can find on their website and on the app itself what those spaces are, but it's free to use and really great tool, really good company, really good people over there. And I just want to make sure that I share Good Maps as well. And then, of course, I imagine many of you have heard of Ira, which allows you to kind of FaceTime chat with a live agent if you need help with any type of visual task. They're also really fantastic. I believe Ira is paid most of the time, but they do have places like I believe Starbucks where usage is sponsored. And so you wouldn't have to pay for it when you're in those places. Any questions on accessibility related apps?
No.
Nope.
No? Good. All right. Next, we're going to talk about my favorite apps for work and school. These are actually many apps that when I first received an iPad as a low vision student in, oh gosh, I was probably in like the 6th or 7th grade. Maybe not that young. Maybe I was a little, excuse me, it might have been in high school. These are some of the apps that were recommended to me and that I have actually continued to use. So the first one is Notability. Notability is really just a note-taking app. If you have an Apple Pencil or really any kind of stylus, you can write notes in Notability. My favorite part about it is that you can actually change the background of what you're writing on. So instead of it being like white, like a piece of paper, you can actually make it black. And you can adjust the color that you're writing in to like yellow or white or like any other color. And so I don't know, as a student, it just sort of made taking notes a little bit more fun and enjoyable for me, and also a lot more like visually appealing. And I felt like I could see it better because it was that dark background with the white or yellow pen. And I didn't have to change any other settings in my iPad in order to get it to look like that. And if I wanted to export it, it makes it really easy to export those notes to a PDF or something so that you can save them somewhere else. One thing I did not, I think, indicate here is which of these are free and which of these are paid. Notability has changed their business model a number of different times since I've been using it. I believe that when I first downloaded it 10 or 12 years ago, it was just a couple dollars. I think it might be a free download now with some sort of subscription plan associated with it, which you'll find with most note-taking apps nowadays that are on an iPad. But I really like Notability. I think the way they allow you to organize your notes is also really good. And it has been, I continue to use it like almost daily. Next, I'll talk a little bit about Scanner Pro, which looks like this. And basically the idea of Scanner Pro is just that it lets you scan a physical document to a PDF. And so it's different from just a picture because it creates a PDF and it sort of creates a more scanned image. It identifies kind of the boundaries of your document, of your page. So I really like Scanner Pro. I will be honest, I don't use it as much as an adult as I did in college. If and when I wanted to, maybe there was a physical handout, but my professor or my teacher agreed to let me submit it virtually. I could kind of just scan that physical handout and then actually use Notability to write my answers down like right on there, because you can move a PDF from somewhere else and actually import it to Notability, and then you can write on it. And then I could then again export that into an email and share it with whoever I needed to share it with. So I really like Scanner Pro. I do believe that's also paid. I don't think it's a ton of money, but feel free to correct me if you are looking it up and I'm wrong. Last but certainly not least here, huge shout out to Zoom. The reason that I think Zoom specifically on an iPad is so good is because I know a lot of us end up on a Zoom call and you're trying to kind of look a certain way in your window, but you really want to see something that's being shared on the screen really up close. So what I find to be useful is to actually join from maybe my computer, and then I can kind of sit at a certain distance and not get too close if I don't want to, but I can actually also join the Zoom from my iPad, and anything that I'm trying to see on the screen share I can actually look at much closer on my iPad while maintaining a different distance from my computer itself. This is also really good in like the classroom if your teacher is sharing something on their sort of on their projector. A lot of the times it's really easy to ask somebody to just open up a Zoom and like screen share anything that they might be doing in front of the group so that you can see that a lot closer. So Zoom is really good for a lot of things outside of just like specifically video calls. Okay, questions on that, and then we'll jump to my favorite apps for like regular life.
So can you explain again
No.
what Scanner Pro does?
Yes. Scanner Pro basically lets you take it sort of takes a picture of what would otherwise be like a physical document, like a piece of paper with writing on it. And instead of it being just a picture, it will actually use some artificial intelligence and identify what actually is that page, and it will scan it to be a PDF. So you're not taking a picture of a document, you're kind of getting what you would get if you were to, and you might be a little young to remember this, but if you were to put a piece of paper through like one of those big copy machines and scan it digitally, that is what Scanner Pro will give you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So it makes it a little more editable, maybe.
Yes, I believe it does. Yes. And it just ends up looking a little bit more organized and put together than taking a picture of like your homework and scanning it and sending it.
Yep.
Other questions there?
Nope.
All right. Last but certainly not least, my favorite apps for just like general life. Some of these will be applicable to you now, some of them might be applicable to you later, some may not be applicable at all. But a couple things specifically on an iPad that I really like is Maps. So I do a ton of traveling for work, and I like to use Maps on my much larger iPad screen versus my phone to actually like look around at where I'm going to be staying, what might be around there, so I know like where can I walk for lunch, and is there a CVS nearby, and what kind of area am I going to be in, like are there any, like I was using Maps the other day, I had to be in San Antonio for something, and I learned only through scrolling around on Maps that I was going to be like 3 blocks from the Alamo, which for our younger folks is like a big historical site. And so it was only through kind of scrolling around on Maps that I found that and was able to go do that when I got there. Generally, I just feel like it gives me some navigational awareness. You can also toggle back and forth on Maps between what they call an explore view, where it's kind of like an animated drawn map with a bunch of little points that identify businesses and like points of interest and things. And then you can also adjust it to be transit. So if you want to look at what the transit routes are, say in like New York City, or actually just a satellite view if you're like really trying to look at something in that space. So I really like, and the Maps app is just on your iPad. I really like it. I think it's really great. Next is actually the calculator app. There are
Actually,
many.
Rebecca,
Yeah,
can
go
I
ahead,
interrupt for just a second?
please.
So the Maps app is actually, I know a lot of the people who had written their applications for their iPad um, were in school still, and so would probably be having some sort of orientation and mobility training. And that app alone would be very helpful for them to have their iPad to be able to, again, as you said, just kind of this is what they're talking about in orientation and mobility training, guys. If you look at Rebecca, she's using an app to see what's around her so that she can get to enjoy life a little bit better. So that just really thank you for being an in-person lesson there, Rebecca. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. That's so funny. I actually, and this should not have happened, but I never received formal O&M training. So this was something I kind of figured out myself, but I'm really glad to know that it is in fact also a best practice. Yeah, and something else I'll say about maps is there are certain large spaces like shopping malls or airports where maps will actually tell you what's inside those spaces. So like when I'm going to an airport and I'm like, okay, I'm flying into Atlanta at gate like A16 and my connection is 10 minutes later at gate C12. I can actually look inside the Atlanta airport and figure out where and how I have to get in order to like how far and how fast I probably have to run to make it between those two gates. So, and the same thing with like shopping malls, shopping centers, even there are a lot of places where you'll get indoor navigation information too. Oh, I think I see a question. Is that a question?
Yes.
Yeah. Let
Yeah.
me see.
Oh,
Can
yes.
see.
Why do you mean as in multiple options is the question.
Or the calculator.
For the
Oh,
calculator.
for the calculator. Yes. Okay. Let's talk about the calculator. So, what I mean when I say multiple options is that there are many different calculator apps. Um, so I was kind of doing some. I wanted to make a specific recommendation, and I actually do not recommend the one that I am currently using on my iPad. But I do recommend that you check out what is available on the App Store for calculators, specifically because it's really big. The buttons will be very large. And if you're going into maybe more complex math in school, you might need a scientific calculator. And there are scientific calculator apps that will, again, just be much larger buttons, much clearer than any of the like crazy Texas Instrument devices with tiny buttons that I had to deal with when I was in school. So what I mean when I say multiple options is just like I encourage you to look at the calculator apps that are available and decide which one makes sense for you. Some of them are free, some of them are going to be paid. I couldn't really make a recommendation because if you're an engineering student, you might want to pay $10 for a calculator app so you have all of that same functionality that you need. If you are not a college level engineering student, you might just want a basic free calculator app with big buttons. So my point here is really just that using a calculator on your iPad is a really good, in my opinion, a really great like life app to have available. Does that help?
Yes.
One of
Good, good.
the caveats on a free app in any case is you'll probably have to look at more ads if that's the case. And a calculator,
Yes.
they can be very distracting to have all the ads, but again, I don't have a recommendation to make either, guys, but that's the problem I have with my app is that it's a free app and there's a lot of ads that scroll across the bottom.
That's actually part of the reason I wouldn't recommend the one that I currently use, is because there are a lot of ads and they are very distracting and the color contrast isn't that great. So take a look. If you just type calculator into your app store, a billion and one options will come up. Last but certainly not least, I do like to recommend if you do any amount of traveling, all of the various transit apps. So what I'm showing here is Amtrak, Southwest, United. Most airlines have an app at this point. Most even like regional transit systems have an app of some kind at this point. And so I highly recommend that you check those out if you are using even a bus system that's nearby. A lot of times they will give you notifications when there are gate changes, when there are delays, when there are any types of announcements about your trips, so that you're not constantly only relying on what you're able to hear happening, or only relying on like really trying to see all of the announcement boards and whatnot. So I really like those apps. They may be slightly more valuable to you on like a phone. But I think if you can get them on an iPad as well, they're really, really helpful. Those are just some of my major things that I think that are useful and I use regularly. My United app gives me like every type of notification. It tells me when it's boarding time. I think it even tells me when my group to board the plane is boarding. So if I'm in like group 3, it'll tell me when group 3 is boarding, which is very cool and means that I don't have to fight for my life to see. All right. Questions on anything here?
No.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What does various mean?
Good question. Various just means I'm not a literature or an English person.
Like multiple?
Yes, there are
means
many.
Many.
I guess so there are many different transit apps for all the different airlines, for bus systems, for trains. Yeah, that's what that means.
Okay.
All right. So if there are no other questions here, I just wanted to open it up to the group to see if there were any apps that you recommend to the group that I didn't touch on. Just happy to give everybody a minute to share some knowledge. I am definitely not the be all end all of tech knowledge.
Also, if
Anything?
you have any kind of questions about something that you want, maybe you don't know what there is one to use, but if there's something you want to do, maybe if there's somebody in the group can help you.
Yeah. Anything on this? My next slide is really just an opportunity for everybody to ask general questions. So I will just now, we've got about 9 or 10 minutes. Happy to just open it up for general questions, conversation. Did you learn anything interesting? Anything like that?
Yes, I learned a few things.
Very good. I'm glad.
And you feel free to write in the chat if anyone doesn't want to. Oh, wait, someone
Yes.
did. Are there any apps you guys can recommend to learn Spanish? Someone asked.
Oh.
I've heard Duolingo is good, but I don't know if you have to pay for that or not. But then again, this is not my call, if Rebecca knows anything. But
that was actually what I was going to say too. I do think you pay for Duolingo, at least in some capacity, and I don't know how good their accessibility is. They're pretty big, so I imagine it's good.
Also Rosetta Stone, isn't that a...
Oh yeah. Yep, that is one. Babbel, I think, is also one. I don't know how to, let me see if I can figure out how to spell that. I think it's spelled funny. Babbel, the #1 language app.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
No.
No.
No?
Oh, wait, there is one more. Any apps
Yeah.
you recommend for a 4-year-old that's visually impaired?
Good question.
Minus.
Any specific tasks you're trying to accomplish in mind?
All I wanted just to learn Spanish
Very
because
good.
I find Spanish interesting.
It is
Do-
interesting.
Donna, did you want to elaborate on what you're trying to, maybe what your 4-year-old's trying to accomplish?
Not exactly just preschool skills.
Okay.
It's a good question. I don't actually have anything off the top of my head. I will say, and this is just a suggestion, so Notability, you're able to upload kind of PDFs into Notability. And so if you maybe wanted to practice, holding a pencil and writing large, you could actually probably upload a stencil to Notability and let them trace that stencil just on their iPad as opposed to on a physical piece of paper. They also, I will say, and I have just tried this out myself, so I can share. There's a screen protector. It's called Paper-like. And it basically is supposed to make writing on your iPad be like writing on paper. And while I can honestly say that it's not exactly like writing on paper, as someone who takes a lot of iPad notes, I really like sort of the paper-like texture that this screen protector gives. I also think if you're dealing with a young child who's learning to write, having the like specific resistance that you're going to get from this screen protector if you want to practice writing on an iPad will be more similar to writing kind of on a regular piece of paper than if you didn't have a screen protector.
Awesome. And Karen said ABC Kids or PBS Kids are 2 good ones as well. In the App Store, maybe
Yeah.
search for preschool kids games. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a good one.
I don't actually know much either, but maybe like the teacher for the visually impaired might know something too. Those people are they probably have their finger on the pulse of what's new for the kids.
I think probably also that Zoom functionality that we talked about, like teaching them how to use that Zoom functionality so that if they want to use regular apps that maybe are not as accessible as they should be, I think that Zoom is really helpful.
I have
Mhm.
a question. Why in our iPads we cannot download anything without paying? Anyway, that's just
There definitely are some free apps. There are many things that are paid. Unfortunately, it's just the way that it is. But there are a number of things that you can get for free, depending on what you're looking for.
You know what's strange? And Rebecca, tell me if I'm like making any sense here. I don't know.
Yeah.
On my iPad, a lot of the time when I'm downloading a free app and it is free, it'll still make me like put in my Apple ID or scan my finger, and then it kind of acts like I paid for. It's like ding, like
Yeah.
it acts like I paid for it, but really it's a free app. So maybe that's what's happening. But I'm not sure. But sometimes I've done that where I'm like, did I just pay for this app? And then it's definitely a free app. It'll be like Instagram or something. And then, so I don't know, maybe look into that too, because it's a little confusing sometimes. Like it'll tell you before you do it though, if it costs money or not. And if it says it doesn't, then it's free pretty much. But
Yeah, they do make you kind of authenticate your account even when you download a free app, just because you're technically making a change to your account. And so you have to authenticate even if it's free. But like you said, Casey, that doesn't necessarily mean you're paying for it. If it
yeah,
says that it's
sometimes though,
free,
that's tricked me before where I've been like, wait, what
yeah,
happened?
yeah.
I don't know. So
Me too, totally.
there are definitely a good number of free apps though.
Absolutely, there are. I think the free ones will usually say "get" in the blue
Uh-huh.
oval, and if it's not free, it will say the price in the blue oval.
okay.
Yeah. All right.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
No. Well, Rebecca, that was amazing. And thank you so much. We do have this recorded for everybody to go back over again
Yes.
if they'd like. And that was really helpful. I even learned a lot of things. So thank you so much,
Oh,
Rebecca,
good. Of course, I'm
for
so glad,
coming.
and I will share these slides so that in case everyone wants to look at those app recommendations, happy to share
Yes,
those
I
over.
could email those as well. If you send them to me, Rebecca, I could also send them out to everybody.
Sure, perfect.
Yeah, I'd love to share the slides. And Karen just shared Khan Academy and is another one
Yes.
good for 4 years old plus. So thank you, Karen. Karen's got all the kids' apps. You know what's going on, Karen. I like it. Awesome. Thanks so much to Rebecca. Thank you all for coming. We hope you
Thank you all
learned
for
some new
coming and
things.
for
We
your
hope,
attention.
yeah, we hope you enjoy your iPads. Karen, do you have anything to say before we head off?
No, thank you everybody who could make it tonight. Rebecca, we will send this out to those who couldn't make it tonight. So anybody who's getting an iPad from the program this year will be able to see this recording. So if we have any questions come in, we'll just forward those on to you. Again, thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate your time and your help getting us kind of familiarized with our iPads.
Of
Yes.
course, absolutely. Very nice to see you all. Congratulations on your new iPads. I hope that they're really helpful to you. And yeah, I'm happy to answer questions if you forward them my way.
Awesome.